President, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., exposed the evils of poverty, murders, terror, bombings, police brutality. Unmerited suffering is redemption. Voting rights, economic boycott, moral confrontation, massive civil disobedience.
God bless you, one and all. Good morning to you for another edition. It's Friday. That means, Dr. Chavis. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Chavis. Let me. We need to unmute you. My bad. There you go. I think you have to unmute yourself. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening.
Okay, if it's Friday, it's Meet the Black Press.
There we go. Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. joins us. And folks, we want to get right into what's going on in Minneapolis. Dr. Chavis, I think you're best qualified to introduce our very special guest right there on the ground in Minneapolis.
Well, I'm so pleased that one of my colleagues, one of my comrades, one of the leaders of the freedom movement, not only in America, but all over the world, in the heart there of Minneapolis and St. Paul, none other than the legendary Spike Moss.
Spike, welcome, brother, to Meet the Black Press. How are you, man?
Rough, brother. I'm so worn out. I'm so tired and kind of destroyed and brokenhearted.
Tell us why Spike, you destroyed and brokenhearted.
Well, brother, when I was a teenager, the first time we rebelled here, and it was in downtown Minneapolis, where they beat a 14-year-old black girl with batons for no reason, no crime committed, and it was the first rebellion ever. We're probably the only city in the United States that has 6 rebellions, and the one now is the 7th. I've fought human rights and police brutality since 66, police cases since 54 years. I've won 98, 99% of all lawsuits, and I've lost every case. I've watched my people suffer here to know that we are one of the 3, Mississippi, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, the worst 3 states towards black people in the entire country. The average income here for whites is 63 to 72,000 a year. Average income is 27,000 and down. There is no statistic that you can bring up. We have the largest population of Somalians, over 50,000. They just arrived. They're already over 58% impoverished. There's nothing you can talk about. We don't even have 1% of the businesses here. And this hate has been consistent all these years that I have fought against this hate here and around this country. And it's boiling over to the point where I'm scared to death we're going to lose our youth in the streets trying to stand up for themselves, because Minnesota has never rendered any freedom or justice to the black people who live here.
You mentioned to me earlier on the phone about some of the rebellion that's taking place. We don't use the word riot, but tell us what's going on and what one of your great concerns is if the police ends up harming one of these young people. Folks, we should also know Spike was one of the leaders in some of the gang summits that Dr. Chavis and Ben, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right, if it hadn't been for Spike Moss, keep in mind, the history is very important. The reason why we had the Million Man March is because we had the National African American Leadership Summit. And the reason why we had the National African American Leadership Summit is because we had the first gang summit. You know, when I first went to the NAACP in 1993, one of the best moments of my life was joining Spike Moss and others. Spike in the middle of the country. We had the West Coast brothers, the East Coast brothers, the South brothers. We all went to Kansas City and not only established a gang truce, but a movement And since that time, Spike is, as he said already, has always been on the front line. And Spike, we want to know that we're here to tell you this morning that representing the Black press of America, we're with you. We're with our brothers and sisters there in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I think you're right. Our young people need proper guidance. You know, I admire their courage. I understand and feel their pain and their anger, but we must channel our fear and our anger into something constructive, not something self-destructive. And so, you know, let us know, Spike, whatever we can do to help the situation there in Minneapolis, because I think you called it right. I think that we don't want to play into the hands of the enemy. We don't want to give them rope to hang us more. You know, we need to get a situation where we can get the justice for Brother Floyd's family and for keep his memory alive. But we don't want to do something that plays into the hand of the oppressor.
So, Spike,
Well, you know,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you know, when you look at our county attorney who's refusing the charge,
Yes.
earlier this year, a white man took a truck and he pumped his brakes and lined it up. And then when he got it pointed right at the bus terminal, he pushed that gas pedal, jumped that curb, and tried to kill 12 people black at the bus stop. When I arrived, they were still trapped up under the truck, those that were alive. The county attorney said that day, he's in his 80s, he's not going to be arrested, he's not going to jail. The same man who won't do nothing now with the videotape on our behalf again.
Spike, when was this?
This year. He did it this year. He went on TV and said he's in his 80s. He should not go to jail. He's a senior citizen. He never gave a breathalyzer. He never made him walk the chop. He never took his vehicle. He never put handcuffs on him. He was never charged. He never had a bail. And then he said out of his mouth, I'm not going to charge you.
Well, I think what Spike is
it, wait a minute, is this Freeman? Is this Mike Freeman?
That's Mike Freeman. Out of 54 years, he has never charged one cop on our behalf, no matter how bad the crime has been.
So, Mark, what Spike is sharing for us that the problem in Minneapolis is systemic.
Yeah.
They have people in place, have been in place, and you know, there's no equal standard of justice. There's one standard of injustice for black people. There's one standard of inequality for black people, and that's something that we got to really challenge.
Let me tell you one of the reasons I wanted to get in touch with Spike Lee for the last 5 years. Either one of you know this. When Martin Luther King died, white people thought we had no leader this the time to charge them physically. They came in our community with guns and tried to shoot our people. The name of the book of the movie is called 91 Days. Black people created the Black Patrol, teenagers and adults, and we fought back with white people in Minnesota 91 days. Minnesota's so racist, Channel 4, 5, 9, and 11 made sure the world didn't know there was an armed race war going on in this city after King died immediately for 91 days. That's how hateful this state is. Black men and women were in the Black Patrol, and we teenagers was with them in the Black Patrol. The second patrol took place on the south side, and the third patrol was southeast with the American Indian movement because they attacked the Indians at the same time. No one knows about the 91 days of a race war with guns here. That's how much hate is here.
And Spike, this was after Dr. King's assassination, you said?
Immediately after he was dead, they said, we got no leader, don't rush him now. And they got in cars firing out their windows down our main street on sight. We fought back for 91 days and no one knows about it.
So you were saying to me earlier the worst case scenario that you envision, and that is if one of these cops shoots one of these kids who were demonstrating, and what'll happen after that. Tell us about that, if you would.
When you have harassed our kids daily, jail them daily, take their cars daily, bum rush their parties daily, disrespect them all over the city. This city here, unfortunately, is overwhelmed by West Coast and Midwest gangs now for maybe 40 years. If you fire and hit one, these kids are so mad at this system and these police, they will fire back. I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling you, we will lose our babies. They don't have the guns. They don't have the bullets, but they will fire back. They feel they have nothing to lose, and life itself ain't nothing. If your mom and daddy can't make no more than $27,000 a year, you totally impoverished. The way we want to live, they want to die. Because life to them ain't worth living because everybody's bringing in misery. Some don't know their father, some know their mama, but she might not be in the house, she might be in the street. So you're on your own, 7, 8 years old, trying to figure it out. These children are mad at the world, and they're now armed and dangerous. And they're tired of abuse, and they're getting it from adults. I'm going to give you an example how bad it is. On the corner of a street called Broadway and Irving one day, every time the street bus stopped and the adults got off, they would grab black men in a circle and beat them to the ground. When I got the call, I went up there. I seen the leaders. I took them to a program called Turning Point, set them in the conference room. What is going on? What are y'all mad about? We've decided that all black men who are 42 or 43 years old are the men who abandoned us, and we're going to beat the hell out of them all day. These men are not your fathers. They're not the men that abandon you. They're the men coming home from work. I know these kids are hurt, and then they're abused at the same time by a racist, systemic system. They're going to fire back.
Are you in dialogue with any, I mean, the young people? Are you trying to give them some guidance and direction?
Have no choice but to do it. Have no choice but take their insults, their embarrassment, their absence of knowledge, brother. They don't even know what our gains were or what we accomplished. They feel that we didn't do nothing for them, and that's why they left here to deal with it themselves. They don't know our history, but everything they got from our struggle. Y'all do. They don't. And so they mad at the world. They have been abandoned. Many of these kids are from 2 alcoholic parents, 2 drug parents, 1 in jail, 1 dead, 1 they don't know. The madness is in the mix of the epidemic, it's in the mix of the racism and the oppression, and it's in the mix of the charge and the damage done by law enforcement on a consistent basis that they begin to learn as grade school kids, watching it on TV and listening in the house of what just happened to black people. As they see it across the nation and in their face in Minnesota, they're sick and tired. If you're going to shoot me, shoot me. Let me tell you something. In all the rebellions in Minnesota, they ain't never burnt down no police precinct. What does that tell you? You got guns, machine guns, armor, you're ready, and they don't care.
They're not afraid to die.
You can't be when you haven't had a good life. You can't be when life ain't nothing to you. Then to tell you, when we were doing these gang summits, we were both doing civil rights, human rights work. We both transferred over to save life. But when you pull a gun on me or Ben, we know and have enough sense to back down and get out of the way. Life's so bad for them, they'll use the N-word and tell you, shoot me, so-and-so, kill me, because life ain't what they want. They want to be relieved from their misery because they haven't had as bad as my life was and probably Ben's was in terms of our people's struggle. They ain't even had close to the good life we had. These are children raised without God, church, religion, spiritual leaders. Sometimes they don't have a moral foundation. They haven't been treated fairly or decently, and you're raised up in a society that hates the sight of you. They're carrying a burden that most of us never carry. We just carry the burden of racism. Our parents didn't even discuss the fact, most of us, they were poor. We didn't even know we were poor. We were living our life. These kids know they ain't got. Dude told me on the national news, he said, Spice, well, what about all the looting? I said, never forget the fact. This battle's always been a battle of the have and the have-not. And when any time the have-not have a chance to have, they're going to have.
Spike, of the young people you're describing, these just the average young people, or how many of them are also in gangs?
Unfortunately, this hurts me too. And I'm saying this to Brother Ben. That hard work we did, brother, we'd have to do again with these kids. The numbers are overwhelming. It goes down to 10 years old, and the leadership is up towards 40 and 50 years old.
Jesus.
And what they care about taking a life would blow your mind. Where they take a life would blow your mind. And so when you understand that, I mean, even when Eric went down in the street because the police had their foot on his neck, at that very moment, in that city, they had already killed over 370-some people. In Chicago, when that brother went down and they hail of bullets, I think they fired 16 times. But at that moment, they had already killed over 500. At the end of that year, they had already did over 4,000 and wounded over 5,000. So I'm just saying that we got a two-headed monster here. He's killing us and we killing us. So we got to fight on both fronts, Ben. I don't know what's left in you, but we got to have a national set down so we can create a national agenda to deal with the new horizon, because we now got to survive white racism and black madness.
What has, so leading up to this, before this happened, Spike Moss joining us live from Minneapolis, folks. Leading up to this, what was there a lot of gun and gang related violence taking place in Minneapolis already anyway?
On a regular. As they arrive in here, especially if you're new and you're trying to get your spot, that's going to come through gunfire. Remember that, well, you wouldn't remember this, but the freeway of Chicago comes straight here. Indiana comes straight here.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've been coming here since the early 1970s. There's probably no branch of gang that's not here. And see, here's the deal. When a young teenager between 12 and 18 years old walk out their door, they look to the left, they look to the right, don't see nothing to do, because ain't nothing here for them. No theater, no bowling alley, no video place, no dance place, and the only thing left is the street in filthy rich Minnesota.
And it's the same situation in St. Paul. Which one is blacker? Which one has more black folk, Minneapolis or St. Paul?
Most blacks are in North Minneapolis, where the movement were birthed right here where I'm at. The movement came, and see what makes our movement different than other cities. Most cities were civil rights. The young people here made our movement black power. So because we want to empower our people, and that's our mentality, this down here just won't take much. Too much or nothing. That's why we had now 7 rebellions, and this one's still going on.
Joining us now is Tamika Mallory. She only has a few minutes, but I wanted the two of you to meet. Tamika, meet Spike Moss, who's a legend in organizing there in Minneapolis. He helped in some of the gang summits in the 90s. He's talking about how if the cops kill some of these young kids ain't afraid to die in retaliation to the cops. So, Sister Tamika, we welcome you. Tell us what's going on with you as you're there on the ground with your organization, Until Freedom.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, and good morning to everyone. And I'm glad to meet you, Spike. I've heard that you are definitely, one that can help us with the historic context here, so that we know how we should be operating on the ground. We certainly want to make sure that this is not just a moment where people from here locally and people from outside of Minneapolis come together to raise noise but not get real results. And so we know we have to make sure that we're all connected. There's a lot happening here, Mark. A lot of our young people are on the street, people of all different races, a lot of white folks, are also on the street. And we've been out there right in the middle of it, in the thick of it, with these young folks trying to help ensure that they have some of the support that they need, and really just trying to capture the energy that's happening on the ground. When I first showed up, when we first got here, Until Freedom, a few days ago, and we checked out, the precinct area and the scene of what was going on there. What was very obvious after leaving the memorial site, where George Floyd was killed, and then a few other protests that were happening, is that the issues that we're seeing on TV don't seem to be happening anywhere else except when protesters are in contact with police. These young people I saw them yesterday protesting outside of the county attorney Mike Freeman's office. There was no issue there, no property damage. People were able to protest and do what they need to do. But it seems that whenever our people have to engage with a militarized police force, that although they are in the wrong, have decided that they will still continue to instigate violence and to, as you said, Mark, cause riots against our people. They're the ones who are rioting. What you see happen is that it antagonizes folks, and then things kind of escalate to the next level. I know now that the National Guard is here. Things will be different, but I'm not 100% sure that these young people are going to just back down. And yes, I'm mentioning young people, but it's not just young people. I've seen elderly people, grandmothers, people in wheelchairs, small children, all out here together saying enough is enough. And I've raised the issue of white folks being out there for two reasons. One, because many are extremely supportive. They are just as fed up, trying to figure out how they can be a part of it. I watch them bring milk out. They're setting up triage to try to help with the tear gas issues. Many of them are doing great work, and they really are standing in solidarity. But there is a group that I've watched very closely of people who are also instigating things on our side in the name of standing with protesters, but they are not behaving as such. They really are sort of a rogue group that is amongst the larger body, and they are creating situations. And white people who are out there need to get their people. They should be the ones to intervene and ask their people to handle this situation in a way that does not take attention from the real issue and what it is that we're really trying to get done.
Can I speak to that part you just said?
Please.
Yes, sir, please.
Please understand that all through our history, the white anarchists come. They have but one goal: overthrow the government. All through our history, the white and the black communists weave themselves through us. They have but one goal: change the government to communists. So even though we have our goal of what we want to do, they come and join in. Unfortunately for this generation, too young to even recognize and know what this is, integrating their movement, and why these white folks are throwing stuff first and trying to get them to go over the edge first. They are anti-United States of America, both groups. Now, when I go out there, because I've been here, I know who they are when I see them. I even know the black communists when I see them, because they've been at it so long. So that's what you're speaking to, and that is a bigger problem. But when the leadership hasn't sat down with to know what to look for, to put their own security together, then all this gets rolled together, and it looks like one. I will agree, they've always had white allies that intend to help and stand with us. But we also have those two groups that have been steadfast in all that we do, and they still push only their agenda, the government. That is what's always brought the FBI to all of our protests, and they know good and well that ain't us.
Tamika, you're trying to have a press conference today, and what's going on with that? Is there a problem?
Everything is getting worked out now. I mean, what I heard this morning was that there was an issue, and actually, what I found out, Mark, is that there was a little bit of confusion about where the press conference was being held. At this point, the police have cordoned off certain areas, and they are saying that it's unlawful for anyone to gather in those areas. But we now have found out and clarified that where we will be, which is at 1 o'clock. Well, 12 o'clock the press conference is happening, but 1 o'clock is open to the public. It's going to be at the government center. So folks who are able to be there with us at the government center should come out. We've been able to clarify things, and we're good to go.
Yeah, Spike. I hope you can go down there and stand with some of those young people today. What time is that again? Tamika, what time is
That's going to be at it's going to be at 1 p.m. in the government center.
in the government
1
center?
p.m.
In the government
You're
center.
gonna be inside or in front of it on the plaza.
Outside in front of it on the plaza.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll come up and introduce myself to you. It'll be an honor to do that.
Appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate that. It's good to meet you.
yeah. So Tamika, I know you got to run. We'll let you go to deal with that and take care of that. But we just wanted to touch base. And I guess maybe we'll see you later tonight on the Justice Clapback. Are we doing that tonight? I don't know. Hopefully we are.
Oh yeah, I hope so. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we need to now more than ever.
Yeah. And but no. So what you missed, Tamika, in the beginning, Spike told the story when Dr. King was assassinated. Spike and the sisters and brothers in Minneapolis were already into Black Power. They rebelled in Minneapolis for 91 days. And Spike's trying to get a movie done called just that, 91. They had the longest rebellion after Dr. King died. But then, just real quick before you go, somebody know about Mike Freeman. Spike, repeat that story about the person who ran the truck over the black people that Mike Freeman didn't prosecute.
A white man made up his mind to leave the suburb on a day and go to the north side, the heart of the black community, on Broadway and Lindale, and drive his truck over black people at the bus stop. Because there's a camera on all the corners, the camera showed him lining the truck up and pumping the brakes to make sure it was straight, and then flooring the pedal down, jumped the curb, and hit 12 of our people, hitting half of them under the truck. He did not get a breathalyzer. He did not get handcuffed. He did not walk the stop line. They did not take his vehicle. They did not take him to jail. And Mike Freeman said, he's 80 years old. He's not going to be arrested. He's not going to be charged. And he's definitely not going to prison. He said it that day, and he stuck by it.
Now, Tamika, y'all went by Mike Freeman's house or something. Didn't some people go by his house yesterday?
Yeah. We were at his house yesterday, as I was mentioning. An area where lots of people gathered, and people were right on the lawn of his house, right, sitting on the lawn, which is kind of a slope, so that you can actually have sort of like a theater seat. So people were sitting on different levels on his lawn, watching the program that was happening in the street. And if and these are some of the same young people that are out there outside the precinct, why didn't they turn around and burn the house down at that time? It didn't happen. And they were right up on it without police all around. No one was surrounding the house. They didn't burn Mike Freeman's house down. So I think we got to be real careful when I see folks who claim to be with us, blaming all these young people and just people in general who are out there as protesters for vandalism and violence, which, when we talk about violence, I think that's something we got to get a little deeper into, because violence against humans and property damage are two different things. However, those folks we were outside of Mike Freeman's home, and not one rock was thrown, not one brick, no one set his house on fire. So that says something to me about the people who are really seriously in this movement.
Let me tell you something else, not as vicious, but just to give you an example of how he thinks. We had a black woman taking her her father to church, and the police pulled him over there in the church clothes, got him out the car, made her go over to the squad car, ordered him to get out of the car. He got out of the car and he's standing there. They told him to come over to the squad car. He did not move. They went over there and beat him down with batons. And let me tell you why he didn't move. He was blind. That boy did not charge those police as they beat that blind man to a bloody pulp because he didn't know where you want me to go. Now, not only did they do it, he had his blind man cane in his hand.
You need to go today?
Our conversation.
How long you had this?
He took 2 Native Americans. They put them in the trunk of a squad car
And they gave
and
you
rode
a
them
link
around
for
all
the
day.
graduation too, right?
Locked in the trunk. When we confronted them,
Your mom
those
says
Native
you had a
Americans
link.
preferred to ride in the trunk. Mike Freeman would not charge him.
So
I'm not
can you go
just
pick it
talking
up today?
about the viciousness of all the
Go
murders.
here, have him go.
We got more murders by them than most cities. I'm talking about on every level. They were doing something vicious and then being dismissed for doing it. We're probably, on the average, got more police in office with 70 charges in their file, never been disciplined, suspended, or fired. Brother Spike, I know I'm white and I'm a police officer. Can I talk to you a minute off the record? Yes, sir. There's too many white police coming to work with their Nazi uniforms and German uniforms to go to their meetings after work. You need to check in on that. I went down to the courthouse, told the chief, I'll go down and check immediately. It's a white chief. He said, Brother Spike, you're right. I found 3 Nazi uniforms still down there. I said, and what do you intend to do? I already talked to them. They guaranteed me they'll never bring the uniform back to work. I said, so they can bring the uniform home, stay in the police department, and bring the Nazi mentality to my community. Mike Freeman never steps up. I told Jesse when he was here, I don't even know why you wasting time talking to that fool. Leave him alone. He's too full of hate.
All right. Tamika, you're going to have a press conference.
So, yeah, it's good. Yeah, 12 o'clock. I'm going to have to go now because I got a lot of calls coming in. Thank you so much, and Spike. I can't wait to catch up with you later. Love you, Mark, and we'll talk again this afternoon.
Okay, beautiful.
Right.
Thank you, Tamika. Bless your sister.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
So Spike, what else is taking place today on your end?
Well, they've been ringing my phone up the hook the whole time I talk to you. So until I return the calls and decide what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go over there to meet her because of you. And then I'll see how much more of this stuff I'm going to take on. I know some of the leaders called me today to ask me, what am I going to do? Right now I'm in deep thought because I know the next level is bloodshed. They burnt stuff all night. They threw bricks all night. This is at least the 3rd night of them being up all night, all to the next day, some not going home, sleeping on the sidewalk. They believe there is no other answer. There's no other way because no one has did something on their behalf.
Yeah.
A leader here, his name was Al Flowers, standing in front of the Urban League. A squad car pulls up. The police jump out and beat him down to the ground in a bloody pulp. But we got the camera on the side of the building. I go in the Urban League and ask for that footage, and it shows what happened. The police arrested this brother after they beat him, took him to the precinct. I go to the precinct. The chief said we got to bring him downtown. The county attorney charges him with assault and police. We show him the videotape. He makes Al go to court. We go to court in the middle of the trial. They won't throw it out, so we show the videotape. They keep going with the trial. The lawyer says to the officer who led the attack, what gave you the right to beat Al Flowers that way? Now I'm talking about this time, not 20, 30 years ago, this time. He stood up from the witness box and said, white privilege. And that boy, Mr. Freeman, did nothing. Who Who do you know in a court of law doing something wrong would stand up and say white privilege?
Spike Moss, folks, live from in Minneapolis. Spike, are you leading a specific organization right now?
What I'm doing, brother, for the last 6 months, because I really tried to retire, I'm telling you. I put together a new organization called Freedom Now, Free the Land. Freedom now because we want it now, free the land because it's never been on this land. And I'm coming at everything I can come at. And I'm beginning to recruit brothers and sisters that understand the real fight is not to just protest and make some noise. We got to make some change. And we got to make some change for the benefit. You know, I have long known, brother, and probably Ben would say the same. We should ask the sovereign ground generations ago to free our people from the corporation of the United States of America and been on sovereign ground under America so we can protect our people. I say jokingly, and people think I'm not serious. We should have declared ourselves 30 years ago as American bald-headed eagles. Had we been American bald-headed eagles, we could go where we want without being molested. We could go where we want without being beaten or killed. We could live where we want, eat where we want, sleep where we want, and live in peace. But we can only do it as a bald-headed eagle.
Spike Moss, sisters and brothers. Spike, we will check back with you later. We probably do, usually on Friday nights, Reverend Kirsten John Foy brings us together for something called the Justice Clapback. And we usually gather again like late in, like around 8 Eastern, Friday night. If you're free, we may ask you to come back and we talk for a long time into the hours. But your voice and your what you've been doing, your institutional memory and perspective is something that is much needed right now. And I'm just thankful that we're friends and comrades, brother, and I can reach out to you. So you continue to be safe, man. Okay.
But just know I have nothing but respect for you and Brother Ben. We go back to the struggles in the early days before we did gang work. And he knows I got nothing but respect for him, and I got nothing but respect for your work, Mark. And y'all keep soldiering. And I hope one day one or both of you will come during this madness and speak to our young people. I'd be honored to make that happen.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm thinking that, and we may just have to do that, Spike. Figure out a way to get to you in the next few days. Keep us posted about all developments on the ground. Continue to mentor our young people. Thank you, Spike. We love you, brother. Okay.
Appreciate it, brother. Y'all have a great day now.
All right. You do the same. Bye-bye. All right, folks. So that was Spike Moss joining us from the ground there in Minneapolis. Tamika Mallory as well. I think Dr. Chavis had to take an emergency call, so we can't see him right now. But if we get him back, we get him back. Y'all, this is real stuff, and our lives are in jeopardy. Our lives are on the line. I think we all know. And we were saying on the prayer call this morning, this is the weekend of Pentecost. So, maybe this is our fire. Maybe this is our Pentecostal fire to get it going. These are not riots. This is a rebellion, and a necessary one. Be forewarned that Trump and his troops are probably going to try to commit an Ahmaud Arbery, a Breonna Taylor, a Sean Reed, a George Floyd, every day now until November. Because it ain't enough that Corona is killing so many of us. They have to do it this way too. So I just want us to be prepared for that, sisters and brothers. So let's stay together. Watch this space wherever you're watching from. We're going to continue to try to give you updates through the day and night. Sisters and brothers, so be sure to stay right here with us and listen out for what you can do. What's happening is that some of these stores are being burned in Minneapolis. It's creating food deserts. for those communities, those black communities, in terms of where they can get their groceries and stuff. So we're going to have to organize to help and save them as well. I see you, Pat McKay. I see you, Candid Chanel. I see y'all in here, and we appreciate you. All right then, folks. We'll be back a little bit later. Again, watch this space, follow, share, tweet, retweet, put it in your Instagram story. Spike just gave us a powerful word right here on Meet the Black Press. All right, we'll check in with you a little bit later on. If it's Friday, it's Meet the Black Press.